Hey everyone, Brand Blakes here, back with a new Shadowverse 2 video. This video is not going to be edited at all. I'm trying to post it as is with maybe a thumbnail, but basically the reason why I'm posting it now instead of later, as I should be if I was a properly, what's the word, like, conscientious person, is because I was staring at the new cards for Forest. They finally added the bronze and silvers and to Forest and the neutrals and all that. And I was like thinking about how interesting that they actually added a lot of support for non-roach centric playstyles. And I kind of want to go over those packages really quickly just because I think they're really funny and yeah, it was just in my head and I probably wouldn't be able to go to sleep if I didn't make a video first. So enjoy this very raw version. Not that I really try to edit myself anyways when it comes down to it, but yeah. So the very first package that they added that was really interesting is ironically Control. If you guys don't know how to get to the site, it's just on their main website. You can do the deck builder and go through it, or by the time you watch this video, it'll probably be all in the actual game itself. But basically, there are a lot of cards that really support the control style that they've added. So I'm going to click into all of them right now, and I can stay temporarily. So basically, these five cards are really built for control. Cynthia is our version of Zirconia. Dwarven Malletman is kind of like a Dwarven Malletman isn't that great. This guy's essentially just Glade, but with technically less steps, but way worse for those less steps. Let me see if I can find him. He's gonna deal 4 damage if you combo. He's gonna deal AoE 4 damage, which is not that bad considering that that's like 7 mana, deal 3 with a body is like pretty alright for this game. You can also just play Bill obviously with this and lap to the bank. But yeah, the like Dwarven Mountain is probably like a 2 cop or 2 up, honestly. But Lionel and Woodwalkers, I was thinking that these cards actually solve the biggest problem that Control Forest had, which is the fact that we didn't really have wide bodies or strong bodies to play in the mid game. But Lionel is a 6 mana 10/10, which is like fine until you remember that you can actually super evo the Carbuncle, and he becomes a 3 mana 13/13. So with Lionel, you actually have a lot of like forward tempo. You have a bunch of minions. You have a 5/5 rush that leaves behind another unit. Like the guy's also hidden behind, or the Carbuncle is also hidden behind a ward. So it's like our turn of Angrea. A little worse, obviously, because you don't get the shooty thing and you don't have rush on the ward unit. But considering that you have 3 extra mana to play with, which could lead into stuff like Bugglers or Fairies or other things, it's also a pretty good card. And then Woodwalker I think is obviously the giant meme. It's just a worse version of Lionel because Lionel is like just barely less worse statted, and these gentle treants, they don't really do anything unless you combo them because you have to evo them manually otherwise. But it's a very good card to play in my opinion still, because you can just evo the gentle treants manually, which should work. And then you have like a way to heal up in the mid game. You have a lot of bodies that your opponent needs to kill, or else you just heal 6 on the next turn or heal a lot more. And obviously just having more body, like having big bodies later in the game is always going to be good. And I don't know, I haven't played Shadowverse 1, so I don't know how this spell would interact, but if you play 2 cards before using this thing, like does Fanfare trigger if it's from a spell? Because if not, then strike, obviously you need to swing with the treant. And then there's like meme about like potentially playing Adventurer's Guild to trigger the Woodwalkers, which is obviously not that good, but a funny thing you could do there. So yeah, the control lineup is a lot better with these 5 cards, and obviously we also still have Titania, who will give you the fuel that you would otherwise be missing for Rose Queen later on. And if you can force a game where you and your opponent are trading back and forth evos, by the time Rose Queen comes down, like if let's say like turn 11, you and your opponent both don't have evos anymore, Rose Queen is actually quite safe because they no longer have a way to swing past Rose Queen and kill you. They have to deal with Rose Queen herself. And at that point, if you had Titania for a few turns, you have that extra 5 to like, there's like extra 3 or 4 fairies in your hand to burst somebody. So really interesting stuff. Like there actually is a pretty decent core around these specific cards. Where is it? Gardens of Lure. And the reason why you can actually play like maybe like two Lamagas, but basically you can play as many Titanias as you want, as many Rose Queens as you want, because you always have Gardens of Lure to just rip out the copy if you happen to draw into it early. And there's always the chance that you draw Gardens of Lure very late and you have like too many Rose Queens and too many Titanias, but that's just a risk you take when it comes to like quote unquote making your deck more consistent. Besides that, we also now have kind of Tempo Fairy, and it is kind of the same structure, I guess, as the previous cards we saw. Tempo Fairy is just going to be the same. Like, you're going to play Cynthia, you're going to play Titania, but now you can actually play Amataz later if you manage to get Titania on the board, because the issue with Amataz was that you never had fairies later in the game because usually you would burn them all clearing the board. But because of Titania, you actually can get like a 6/6 Amataz later in the game. And there's the issue of like fairy tempo not actually being super amazing because you don't have as much raw power as Roach, but you can play a very similar, just like, you know, good fairy convocation. Like, you can play everything that Roach wants to play and just cut Roach and then just play fairies instead and play kind of a slower game and really abuse the fact that Titania should be giving you permanent value. And at some point, between all the efficient combo that you have and all the whittling down, you'll eventually like clear out your opponent. But this is obviously very I guess like experimental. Like, I don't really think this would be. I think I made a what's a good way. I think, okay, let me go back really quickly to control. So for control, in my opinion, you're always forced to play like good fairy and May and like these cheap spells, because that is where all of your early game lies. Like, you're always gonna play Lily. You're probably gonna play two Gardens of Lure, probably three because you're playing a heavier deck. You're ignoring a lot of the combo cards that you usually run, but you could run stuff like Amataz because now you're gonna be playing like Cynthia, Titania, Glade's too broken to ignore, and then we're gonna play like two Woodwalkers. Where is the Carbuncle Man? Did I put him in yet? Where'd he go? Oh, Lionel. You have Lionel, you have two Rose Queens, and then I'm assuming you have two Lamagas. A lot of pairs. You probably don't have to play all these pairs because there's not that many Super Evo targets with this one or with this deck. So something like this, obviously I just like kind of made this on the spot, so it's not optimized at all. But you could feasibly play this and actually have like a quote unquote control force deck, and it might actually work out because you have the early game that like Force is obviously very known for, and then your mid game is actually existent because Amataz, you know, Evo Amataz has a lot of power. Cynthia has Arziconia. Titania, you know, she stalls really easily. Glade is Glade, he's broken as hell. Lionel, Lamaga, very good Super Evo targets, and you can always Super Evo something like Glade or Lily if you really need to. And then you have Woodwalkers to force your opponent to deal with you, and then Rose Queen as your quote unquote finisher once all the resources are dried out. So really interesting core. Obviously, again, I haven't done any testing. This is like it's 2 a.m. and the patch release is in 2 hours, and I obviously can't can't get all the cards. But yeah. And then on the other hand, if you're playing generic fairy, or like this like quote unquote tempo fairy thing that I just floated, you could play like I think you could play all of these cards honestly. Like, maybe Sprite isn't as necessary anymore, even though I really like Sprite. So maybe I'll just like try and put Sprite in just because I personally like the card. But you could probably play something like this. Two more spaces. If I want two more spaces, I'll probably look into playing probably just two roaches, just for some reach later on. So again, just whipped together really quickly. You can mess with the number of Titanias. You can mess with the number of Cynthia. I think three of is gonna be guaranteed in this deck. But yeah, like Wild Profusion. You don't need to play three Wild Profusions, but I guess if you're like trying to be like, oh, I'm very fairy, I don't think Wild Profusion is good enough actually. But you guys get the deal. Like, Wild Profusion can be taken out for stuff like another Roach, for Gardens of Lure. Cairn can be taken out for like other decent cards. Like, you can also try and fit Godwood in if you want more draw, which is probably necessary just because of how light the deck is now that I'm looking at it. If you want to put Godwood in, if you want to put three Godwoods, I'd probably say you only want to put two Godwoods, or uh, maybe like you can play like two Cairns. But yeah, you can tell this is like just like kind of the Roach setup, but it's all fairies because we can actually now play all the fairy potential that you want. And then, sadly, the existing Roach deck obviously still exists. It's probably going to be the best version of of 4 still, which is probably going to be a thing until the end of time, like until the set itself gets rotated out. But in my opinion, again, no testing done because it's not possible to test at the moment. But this is what I'm assuming will be the Roach list. You're gonna take out the Olivia for stuff like Ambush from Above and Gardens Allure, just because um, you'd rather end the game faster, right? So you're gonna be playing these cards that let you end the game faster and also let you cycle Godwood Staff a lot easier, because I think Bug Alert is kind of weak, and Garn's Alert is honestly not that good. But if you're dumping your hand fast enough, which is what Ambush from Above lets you do, then Garn's Alert can actually be played very quickly and very frequently, which will let you draw into Roach very easily, as opposed to like having an Olivia in hand, which will clutter your hand in the long term, or having like higher cost cards like Aaron and Arya. But again, these are all just like predictions. I think Forest got a lot of support that I didn't really expect. I was kind of thinking it was gonna be really boring, and I think a lot of the non-Roach lines, obviously again, you could probably still play regular Roach, like the old version, and it might still be better than what I just whipped up. But I don't know, it's actually pretty cool that we're having these deck lists pushed. It just adds more variety to Forest, and we're not. I guess we are still locked into Roach because Roach is just objectively the strongest, like the strongest combo burst card in the game. So anything we do will be worked around it. But the fact that we can even attempt to push away from it because we have enough cards available to, make something is really nice. And yeah, hopefully this short video will make you guys equally as excited for the set, because I was feeling kind of iffy about the set, and then I sat down, thought about it, and I was like, oh, you know what? It's actually not that bad. I'll be excited. Also, I never talked about this card, this Wild Heart card. I think this card's trash. I would never play this, honestly. But maybe someone will find a use for it. Evo Art's really cool. So maybe we'll find a way. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys.